Hi everybody, so this is going to be my first video on why I joined Restore Britain. Obviously the biggest subject matter facing Britain right now, and one of the key things Restore Britain was kind of ahead of its time on, i.e. creating a policy on immigration and remigration, which it was given out to every other party before the creation of Restore Britain as a party, in which they turned their back on. Pretty much the same thing in regards to grooming gangs. So the first video is going to be on migration, and really, do people realise what is happening to the country and how many people are actually coming to the country? I think it was 2023, a census was done asking the public how many people they thought had come into the country, and most people gave an average of about 70,000 people. And that's reality. The net migration of that year was about 800,000 on the tail of the Boris wave, which has continued to this day. So here we go. Here's net migration over the last 20 years. In the 90s, you can see this is Blair and Blairism and the whole globalist agenda, and Blair just pushing that gate up, which has been championed on, carried on by the Conservatives, which are pretty much the same party. And then we went into lockdown, and then we got a spike, which is expected because, come out of lockdown, which is still pretty damn high compared to the rest, but expected to be higher. And then boom, in 2022 we jumped here. In 2023, and I'll take in mind, I haven't got the figures here of what left the country, but this is 800 people net. So this means that several hundred thousands, I think about 400,000 left the country, and this is happening every year. So you're swapping a proportion of the population for your new arrivals. This is something to always keep in mind. And the problem with this is what we're finding is it's the high-skilled native Britons that are leaving, or the high-skilled migrants that no longer feel like it's safe to be here, or there's no investment here. The job creators, shall I say, from both ends. We're finding about 10,000 millionaires, I think millionaires, I'm not sure billionaires, but millionaires are leaving a year, which is not great, considering the highest wealth earners in the UK pay for between 40 to 50% in taxes. Well, now anyway, it's estimated to be about 43, 44% this year. And this has only just got worse in recent years. So this is like, it's dropped, as they say now, to about, in 2024 to about 400,000. But as you can see, there's the peak. But that's still a lot of people. It's like another 500,000 people every year. And we're still losing about, that was like 200, 300,000 people that year, who are, again, the people you don't want to leave necessarily. The youth in the UK don't feel like there's any opportunities. So if they have opportunity to get a job elsewhere, like Dubai, they're going to go off and jump on it. Now, everybody keeps saying that this will, increase GDP. Well, that's a lie, because GDP has now been the lowest has ever been since pre-war records, and net migration has been mass migration has been on rapid increase for the last couple of years, and hasn't increased that in any shape or form. It's actually compressed it. It's compressed wages, allowing the ultra rich to stay ultra rich while pushing away everybody else, and they're not necessarily here in this country. This also led to a housing crisis, has led to an NHS crisis. We keep saying, oh, these people work in the NHS, but we know from the figures that out of all the migration, the Boris wave and onwards, it's 0.2% are apparently scientists and engineers, 0.8% is NHS staff, and 12% are high earners, or high skilled, sorry. And that includes barbershop workers and Turkish barbers, and vape stores and kebab shops. I'm sorry, that's not high skilled. So that's being conflated and distorted and amended over the last couple of years, which is a problem. And the other problem I have is the increase in sexual violence to women and children on our streets, which has only got worse over the years, and is directly in correlation with mass migration. As you can see, here's your migration, and you can see the Boris wave, you can see it's plateauing over the years, and this is because we're mainly importing people from cultures and societies that deem sexual abuse perfectly normal, or that women don't have rights, or to have sex with children is okay, or cousin marriage is perfectly fine, and mostly answer the problems with violence. And we can see this on our streets. You could say, obviously, homicides or murders are down, but manslaughters are up, and there's more crime and more stabbings than there ever has been, and especially sexual abuse. If we look at the grooming gang inquiry headed by Rupert Lowe, publicly funded £600,000, because everybody in power seems to want to turn their back on it because they think about votes, to be brutally honest with you, which is somewhat sectarian. We can see the main perpetrators being foreign nationals and not natives to the land. 92% of this inquiry were Pakistani men, and the 8% was made of other minorities, including some British white natives. And the main victim, was 99% white British girls who had racial slurs created for them and were racially targeted. And it's on an industrial level, by the way, with girls being shipped abroad, very much like the Epstein files, Epstein industrial, I don't know how to put it, sex slave industry. These stories broke my heart when I was reading it, and it broke my heart that mainstream media chose to completely ignore this, and everyone in the left, because they deem it as racist because you're pointing out a Pacific culture that is, seems this is normal, and is racially targeting another culture basically because of their differences. And because of these last waves of people from these countries, which are completely antithetical to our own, have completely different ideologies, we are now browbeaten into placating to their way of life. We can't have Christmas as it were anymore. We have to have festive trees and winter cakes. We can't celebrate Easter so much in some schools, but yet Ramadan is rammed down your throat, and you're told that multiculturalism and diversity and ethnic minorities built your entire nation, which is a lie. Anybody who looks into history will see that. And we have enclaves now in our country where we've elected people who are not born in our country or have not the country's interest at heart. Or even in Birmingham, we now have a convicted terrorist running for the council, which makes no sense. That is scaring the living bejesus out of me and the native Britons. It's scaring me that my daughter's looking at this as a future and won't be able to get a home and won't be able to get an NHS appointment or a dentist appointment, and might be next to men who've been put into a HMO that we know nothing about, which statistically have a higher probability of causing sexual abuse. I mean, it is a real thing. There's a per capita list out there where Afghani men are 26.6% more likely to create sexual offences, and the white Britons are at the very, very bottom on a per capita scale, and even though they're majority of the nation. This lie just needs to stop. It needs to stop attacking us, attacking our existence, telling us the Anglo-Saxon no longer should exist. It's just really, really wrong. And when you're seeing every day, I mean, I look at news every single day, I look at Facebook every single day, all the social medias from the left and the right, and I'm seeing a sexual abuse every day, a stabbing every day, and the victims seem to be 90% natives, and the perpetrators seems to be 90% non-natives. And it looks very targeted now. There's some of these most random attacks ever, and the sexual abuse is insane. I mean, this is now our country. Okay, so this is last year's reported cases, apparently. Now, this is reported, that's key, because not all cases are reported remotely. Even from homegrown sources, we know that women don't believe they can be listened to by the police, or even victim blamed. And we can tell from the grooming gang inquiry that even council members, care workers, the NHS staff, the police, everybody involved covered up the grooming gang scandal because they didn't want to deem it racist for some reason. But yeah, we look at Poland, which shut its borders off, has low immigration, and only chooses to accept immigrants from cultures and societies that are the same as theirs, have a much lower result, exponentially lower. And this is your natives or your immigrants that have integrated, right? Well, I speak clear here, there's nothing wrong with immigration as such, right? We need immigrants, we need high skilled immigrants to come to the country, but we need immigrants who want to come here and become part of the British way of life, not change it, not criticise us, not keep telling us we're pieces of rubbish, but we seem to be inviting these people. I mean, I don't understand. If we're so bad, why do you keep coming here? Oh, because I feel like you want to destroy us or take over. When you've got enclaves or what you call colonies around the country where British people can't enter or don't feel safe anymore, or literally has no white sprayed on a wall, which I have several images on my phone of in Bradford and Birmingham. When I have immigrant friends who've got visas working in Bradford saying, I'm so confused, I don't see a single English person. We're told not to go after 5 at night unless we're in a group, and we got to be more careful because there's a stabbing every single day. And they grew up reading Harry Potter, which only was 20 years old from this day, which showed a completely different, Britain at the time, a homogenous society, which was mainly, ethnically native. And the fact that anybody saying this gets called an ethnonat or attacked, which is disgusting because, well, look at Korea. We don't sit there and say BTS is racist for only having a Korean boy band. We don't sit there watching K-pop. And I know these people who say these things watch K-pop and Japanese, dramas. They don't sit there complaining about it's too Asian. Like, they never say that. Or about any other culture other than European culture. I'm sick of being called a fascist and a Nazi potentially because I'm proud to be British. I'm made of English, Irish and Welsh heritage. Oddly, my DNA is a bit of a mess. And Scandinavian. But I know we defeated the Nazi party. We stopped the Nazis from happening. Why am I living in this world of white guilt thinking that we could become that when we were never were that? Even when we were the British Empire, we were never that. Okay? We didn't go in and completely wipe out all civilizations. Okay, there was maybe a couple of instances. We weren't perfect, of course, and we didn't change the entire way of life and culture. And even now, there are countries with representatives inside those countries going, "Oh, my life! When the British Empire ended, our country ended, and it wasn't their fault. It's our fault." To be clear, I mean, I recommend a lot of people really look into the empire properly, and I don't mean via Netflix or the BBC. But nonetheless, it doesn't make sense why we have to be deleted and our entire society and culture is being pushed aside. And this is, this mass migration issue and increasing crime and violence and danger and sectarian natures and enclaves and tribes. It's looking more and more like Lebanon and Iran every single day. And, well, that can't be the case. This is Britain. And the English, Irish, Scottish and the Welsh have every right to exist and every right to reserve their culture and to be proud of it. So rightfully so, as every other country can be, except for our own apparently. And I get to stop. And there was no political party to vote for that until Rupert Lowe created Restore Britain. So hence, I joined Restore Britain. And this is one of the reasons I joined, along with many others, which were included in this video, which I can expand upon in the future. The next video will be a bit more detail on how we deal with immigration and remigration. It will be mentioned in certain parts of the 113-page document presented by Restore Britain, and I will be going over my own suggestions, which pretty much line up with everything in that document. That's why another reason I instantly joined Restore Britain, because I read the document before the formulation of the party and was like, well, there's all my ideas sitting right there on paper. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the first video. I shall try and make the next one shorter and better in that sense, and signing out.